right, race fans, Brian Eagle and the one and only Bert Lehman bringing you episode number 72. Bert, can you believe it? 72 of the One to Go show. And hey, before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to one of the sponsors for the show here, of course, buyraceshirts.com. Outlaw Graphics is kind of a subsidiary of them over in Montevideo. Jordan Tollickson owns that. I'm telling you guys, they got race shirts for the low budget teams that can't afford to throw the money up front at it, all the way to the high dollar teams that want to order 500 at a time. It does not matter. But buy a racer for racers. Check that out, buyraceshirts.com. So with that said, let's get into it. You know, a lot of racing this week, and I guess we'll start with it's Bristol, baby, right? We'll start with that. Maybe on the I didn't get in Victory Lane down there, so I figured I'd get it out of the way now and try to emulate that a little bit. But a lot of racing down there, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? There's a little bit of all of it. You know, let's start with the good. You know, and we'll start there. We'll kind of get into maybe some good stuff, so to speak. But there was definitely some good racing. You know, there was some ugly racing, some bad racing too. But I'm going to start with you, Bert. You know, you watched a lot of Bristol. Of course, that was on Race XR. You had a lot of Wisconsin guys, people that you know, that were down there. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take the floor. What kind of stuck out to you on a positive side from the Bristol Dirt Nationals?
On the positive side, I mean, I did watch all the main features, and I mean, actually, for the most part, I mean, it was good racing to watch. I mean, it's a big half mile, so you're not going to have side by side, you know, throughout the field. But it was good racing, and the stock car feature was actually really good. Unfortunately, you know, not as many, you know, the Wisconsin drivers didn't fare as well, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, I thought the features were very good. You know, I think everybody kind of assumed Kyle Larson was just going to run away with the late model portion of the show, but that did not happen. He got passed, and he was actually leading the big show, and got passed and got spanked then afterwards because Davenport just pulled away from him. And I mean, it was interesting, the line that Davenport used to pass him. I don't know if you noticed it, but I mean, he'd use the cushion until about midway between 1 and 2, and then he would drive down the banking, and he really got a lot of momentum by doing it that way. You know, a lot of times when you think of a driver driving the cushion, you know, they have their rear tire on the cushion all the way around the corner, but he went about midway through the corner, and then he drove down the embankment and really got a lot of momentum. And if you watch Kyle Busch, who was actually his teammate for the race, Kyle Busch was kind of doing that in the semi feature. And so, you know, I don't know if Davenport learned a little something by what Kyle Busch was doing, or, you know, maybe it was a case where Busch was starting in the back of that race, so they decided to try something to see if it would work, and it did.
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, and he was late, right? Because he had to race. He raced prior to that. He got over to the track, so he got there late, and they waited for him. But that was pretty cool coming from the back. I think he got up to 11th in the A main, so pretty impressive run. I still think he's a dipshit, to be honest with you. He's not like personable with the fans, but I can't back away. He's talented behind the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a post this afternoon. Somebody posted on Facebook, and they had a picture of Kyle Busch's back and their kids behind them. And this guy said that Kyle Busch never turned around and acknowledged the kids or anything like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what was circulating on Facebook.
If it's on Facebook, it's obviously true. So that's absolute gospel. That's fact. Yeah, it's hard to say, but, you know, they kind of rope all that NASCAR group off, and, you know, so they kind of are off in their own little world over there. And I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think some of the top dirt guys are more special in my eyes than some of the NASCAR guys, but it is what it is. It's always kind of been that way. And I think if he raced at some of those tracks down south, some of the dirt tracks where they get a little feisty, I think that dude would get his ass kicked like multiple times a year. I just, it just is what it is. You get beat up a lot, I think. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that could be. We all know that, today's NASCAR is a lot different than NASCAR in the past, and the drivers are so sheltered now. They don't, when they interact with the fans, it's kind of I don't want to say a forced interaction, but it's like an autograph signing. So there's rules and guidelines you have to follow in order to get your time with the NASCAR stars, where go to a dirt track and you can just mingle. I mean, even, like if you go to Eldora, buy a pit pass, you can just mingle with them the entire race program.
Right. Speaking of Kyle Larson there, he got second in both of the shows, right? And then they transitioned over to the NASCAR race, and he was led most of that till like 5 to go. He got second there too. So from what I understand, he spent all day today getting fitted for bridesmaid dresses. See anything about that online? That's got to be true. So now I will say this, we had our picks right for the late model show there, and I don't want to brag. I will, but I don't want to brag. You and I both picked Jonathan Davenport. I'm just saying, like, we got that one right, Bert. All right. So like, air high five. Come on. All right, there we go. we both got JD, and I'll give a little bit. No, he doesn't get no points for this, all right? Because we got the points kept track of, but I'll get a little bit of love there to Jeff, because Jeff actually picked Kyle. He picked Strickler to win, which we'll talk about that in a second. But then he picked Kyle Larson to get second, and so he was. There's no points for that, but I got to give him a little bit of credit there that he did get second place pick right with Kyle Larson. What else stuck out to you on the positive side? I got a few notes here of my own, but if I said, give me a couple things that came to mind that like stuck out to you at Bristol from that event, you're like, that was pretty cool. What stuck out to you?
Well, and we'll get into this a little later too. I think they had too many crate late model races, but early in the week, actually it was the first day that one of the crate divisions raced. The first qualifying feature, you had a 12-year-old winning, and then the next qualifying feature, you had an old, I don't know, he had to have been in his 50s for sure. So just the age difference, and a 12-year-old winning any race is a good, is amazing in itself. But then at Bristol, which made me wonder, should 12-year-olds be racing at Bristol? But he seemed to handle himself pretty good. Although in the main event, he tangled with another youngster in the division, and actually in that race, because they were running for second and third, I think, and they took out the entire field behind them. Only 2 cars were not involved in the wreck.
Yeah, that was a questionable one. I saw people saying that, see, that 12-year-old don't belong in there. You should have lifted. The 15-year-old kind of come up into him. So it's kind of one of those deals. It was 2 young guys, and quite frankly, we've seen 40, 50-year-olds kind of wreck about.
Oh, yeah.
I think they have less fear, right? They're fearless at that age because they don't have to work on nothing.
Yeah, when that accident happened, I didn't think to myself, oh, a 12-year-old shouldn't be out there, because I didn't, like you said, we've seen guys in their 20s, in their 30s do the exact same thing. So, I guess where I was referring to whether drivers that young should be out there in Bristol, because if something would have happened, then, the promoters and everybody, it would have been a big news event.
Yeah, they're going fast at that place. And the old cat there, I don't know how old he is. I feel like I should look it up, but Spencer Singleton. And actually, I got a buddy, Jeff Smith. He lives down, I guess it's kind of right around, what would it be? Right by Chattanooga there. It's just south of Chattanooga. He's in North Georgia down there. And this guy races out of his shop. And fans, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, jump on Race XR. This was by far the best victory lane celebration that I've seen. Like, this dude was like off his chain, hooting and hollering, and it looked like he was about ready to cry. He's kissing the victory lane, and like he was like all about it. So it was fun to me seeing that passion. It don't matter how old somebody is, and then you see that 12-year-old, he wins and he's like, ooh, I won. He's like, you don't even get excited. You kind of think that'd be the other way around. And but I was pretty pumped when I saw how excited that guy. You can see genuine excitement out of him. Then we talked about Davenport. He took a gamble. We talked about this, right? And we're like, is he going to run for the Lucas Oil points? Is he going to run the big shows? And he's like, I'm just going to gamble. I'm going to run the big shows. That gamble may have paid off just a little bit, $50,000 richer after that one. And then he still went on Sunday, right, over to Atomic. And, I think he's a couple hundred points out of first. Like, he's a ways back, but it's still early in the season. Could he legitimately put himself in a position to where he has another decision to make when it comes to the deal when they got it at Knoxville, the late model nationals at Knoxville, which is Lucas. And then you got Texas, of course, running the Texas Motor Speedway, $50,000 to win part of the double. What is it? The Triple Crown, double down Triple Crown or something like that. They're calling
something like that. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how his Lucas season goes. Because if it gets to that point, I was talking to Jeff about that. What's the number? If he's within 20 points of the lead, if he's kind of in striking distance, does he go to Knoxville? If he's a couple hundred points back, he's like, hell with it, I'm going to Texas. But is there a certain threshold where he's in the hunt that it becomes kind of a questionable deal? Right now, he's not real close. He's a couple hundred points back, but that's something to kind of keep an eye on because, boy, there's a guy, Bert, that's hit and miss, right? Like he can be just bolted. He's got, he must got 4 or 5 wins already this year, 4 maybe, right? He win 3 in Arizona, right? And he didn't win nothing in Speed Weeks, so that would be his next one. So he's got 4 wins on the year already, and I mean, obviously the biggest payday of the year went to him. So, and then all of a sudden you watch him other nights and he's complete garbage. It's like, so he's really up and down, but when he gets hot, he can get hot, and they don't call him Superman for nothing. So what else?
Yeah, I think he's just, I think he's trying to leave all of his options open for the season. And I think that's why he went to Atomic, the next night, just because, I mean, if he wouldn't have gone, then he would have been done for sure in Lucas. Now, I'm not sure, and I mean, we may touch on this later, but will he be allowed to tag on to the end of a B main in the makeup at Brownstown?
Well, I think the final B main was on the track, and there's only 3 laps.
That's what I think so.
So yeah, no, he won't.
Okay.
Yep, and I think he passed his threshold for, and I don't know if he signed. I don't think he committed to Lucas, so that'll kind of knock him out of provisional land too. So I guess he'll have to race his way, and it'll be interesting to see what the 49 does here on out. Another guy that did good down there, Bert, that I tell you, he's kind of found some speed this year. We're talking about Black Sunshine himself, Bloomquist with a pair of top 5s, 4th and a 30. He's pretty racy too.
Yeah, he was racy. I mean, he was hanging in there with the top runners. And is Chris Ferguson still racing a Bloomquist chassis?
Yep.
So I mean, and Ferguson won Friday night's feature. So the Bloomquist and led the first part of Saturday nights. I thought he was going to repeat there for a while, but then he faded pretty bad at the end. Yep. But yeah, I mean, Bloomquist looked good, and his chassis looked good with Ferguson driving, especially Friday night.
And kind of a cool looking car for Bloomer. So like we talked about, you're going to have a whole thing of diecast, just diecast there. So, what else? There's one more thing that stuck out to me that was just really super cool. But anything else stick out to you there that just, it's like, man, that was pretty neat.
Well, not necessarily pretty neat, but the NASCAR champ, I'm having Chase Elliott. His time didn't last very long there. He was involved in an accident Friday night, and he hit the wall pretty hard, and I was wondering if he would return Saturday night, and he didn't. So unfortunate on that he couldn't return to race Saturday night. But I mean, you can tell there's definitely a difference between NASCAR and dirt late model racing.
Yeah, that car was a little bit shorter. Another thing that stuck out to me, I saw this on Facebook, and I'm gonna maybe see if I can post this on there, see if I can copy it. But I guess they didn't. It wasn't IMCA sanctioned, so I'll call it the stock car division, which is essentially IMCA stock cars / street stocks or whatever. But Dallin and Damon Murdy, they father-son deal went 1-2, and now I think this Dallin Murdy, I'd have to look, but I feel like he's like 15 or 14, like he's pretty young. Well, they went 1-2 in the A main, and it was pretty cool. They got back into their town, and I think they live in Iowa, and like the fire trucks kind of give them a kind of a tour, and Damon had no clue what in the world's going on, and mom's behind in the toter, and they're kind of going through there, and they pull into the school, and like they had a big standing ovation there. And like she said, he don't play any like high school sports, but to see that kind of support, go to somebody from the community for winning down at Bristol, I got to be honest, I don't like to say this, but I got a little choked up watching that. I'm like, that was really cool. You saw that, didn't you?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I got a little choked up myself. I mean, that's always racers, it's kind of an individual sport. I mean, you have your pit crew and stuff, but you don't necessarily have a town behind you like, a team sport, so to speak. And to see the community show up for him and welcome them back home after he won that, I'm sure it's something that he'll never forget for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that was really cool. Now let's get into the bad. We talked about some of the good. You got anything else that sticks out on good, or should we get right to it?
Let's get on to the bad.
What the hell was Kyle Strickler thinking? What is he doing? He's not even running the Lucas Oil points, right? He's leading World of Outlaws. He's on the pole for 10,000 to win for the open mod division. And he's good on a half-mile racetrack, and they just decide on Saturday, heck with it, we're going to go race Brownstown instead. Well, as you can see, that didn't work out because they only got halfway through the program. We'll touch on that in a little bit. So then he jumps in an airplane, I believe it was from Lowenbro, flies back to Bristol, wins the 10,000 to win mod show. Boy, he left a lot on the table, right? Because, you're looking at that field of cars. We'll touch on that in a second here. He legitimately should have been in he went top 5. If nothing happens, he's a top 5 car in the open late models. What was he thinking?
Has he missed any Lucas races yet this year?
Well, he's like 82nd in points. Like he's bad.
But I think it might be a case of same thing with Dev. I think he's trying to keep all his options open that, he can latch on. He try to gain as many points in Lucas as he can, and late models is his main concentration now. But yeah, $10,000, that's a lot to leave on the table. And, starting in the front, he had a very, very good chance of winning it, which wound out he did.
Well, yeah, in the mod deal for sure. But in all my life, right, I have never seen such a horrible, weak competition for a 50,000 to win late model show. There was maybe 6, maybe 7 quality late models, and a few of them run pretty good, maybe in their region, but I wouldn't consider them contenders like at a Lucas race or something like that. You look at that and you're like, if you're looking at that field of cars, right, and you're like 50 grand to win, good payback all the way back, and you're looking at like the quality of competition, and then you look at the quality of competition that's going to be at Brownstown. They had 45 cars at Bristol for 50,000 to win. They had 44 at Brownstown for 15,000 to win, and the quality of competition at Brownstown was 10 times better than it was at Bristol. It's like, do the math, dude. What are you looking at? What are you doing here? You're already at the track. Why would you leave? And that didn't make any sense to me. It's kind of like one of those deals. It's like, well, maybe he wanted to save his equipment, because Bristol's hard on cars. Good call. Yeah, good call on that one, because Brownstown was a complete train wreck. So I just laugh. It's like, hey, I got an idea. we're going to skip Bristol because it's hard on race cars and go to Brownstown. And they're pounding like through ruts and rolling over race cars. Yeah, that didn't quite work out. So another thing, did you watch you said you watched all the features. Did you watch the Hornet feature?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of that? So fans, I'll kind of fill you in if you didn't see it, right? So a gentleman by the name of Hunter Anthony, and let's face it, Hornets where I'm at, they're like $100 to win, right? That's kind of what they get paid. This dude goes on, gives them a beatdown, wins. Probably, I don't know, that thing looked like it was a little quicker than the rest of them. But the fact is, 2,000 to win. He pulls down into victory lane, and they give him the hat in the car, and they give him the Hoosier thing, and all of a sudden the guy reaches in there, grabs the hat off, and said, "Nope, sorry, dude, you're disqualified." I'm like, whoa, what happened? Evidently, he didn't have his gloves on at the later parts of the race. I want your thoughts on that, Neil.
Well, I mean, if it's a rule, I guess it's a rule. But so he had the gloves on earlier in the race and then he took them off?
Took them off on a red. Yeah, took them off on a red, which I've raced many years. I never took my gloves off during the race unless I had to fix my shield or something like that. But rare, I mean, maybe once in my whole career of racing. Yeah, he took his gloves off, and some people said he had them on his dash. I think he tucked them underneath his leg. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you could clearly see it. His hand out the window, no glove on. It's like, dude, like, I mean, they preached, Bert. They preached all week. They preached all the way going into that event. You got to have the head and neck restraint. You got to have a full containment seat. You got to have, you got to have all this safety equipment. And they touched on it like the whole time they were there, right? They touched on it every single day. That dude's got to feel like a dipshit. Like, seriously. I mean, yeah. I mean, did he win? Yeah, but I mean, come on. Like, what are you thinking? Like, I mean, they not to really have the backs of the track or whatever. They made plenty of mistakes over the weekend, but they warned them. How many times they got to tell you? You got to be wearing your safety equipment, and they was. That's probably the biggest thing they pushed the whole time at the Bristol Dirt Nationals was safety equipment. So, man, that's a tough hit, especially somebody that's in a lower class like that, because a $2,000 win's a big deal, right? So you get a couple grand in your pocket as compared to like $0. That's a kick in the teeth, So yeah, I guarantee he won't make that same mistake twice. If he does, he's even dumber than I thought.
I think that you're right that he will not make that mistake again. I mean that is unfortunate because that is a big hit to him. And I mean, did you hear about the other disqualification of a feature winner? It was one of the mod features. It had to have been the IMCA style mod. The race was over. They did their interview. Everything was good. And then I'm watching the next feature, and they said the winner of the previous race was disqualified for an illegal chip. And then I went on Facebook later, and somebody posted that they retested it, and then it tested fine. So,
well, from what I understand, is he had an open motor in the IMC open motor, and you can run a bigger chip at that deal. And I think they just assumed everybody had a crate with the IMCA deals. So from what I understand, they looked at it and they're like, this chip is no good, because they were thinking the crate deal. Well, then when they realized this dude ain't got a crate, they're like, oh, wait, you can turn more RPMs with that one. So, yeah, that was I bet the guy had a little knot in his stomach a little bit when they first told him he was disqualified. That's for sure. I bet his heart kind of skipped a beat there, so to speak. Another thing there, victory lane interviews, with all the different winners, it drives me nuts. Brandon Kopp mentioned this on Facebook. He's like, does it bother anybody else that like half these dudes, they don't thank their sponsors, they don't know what to say, they look like they're lost in victory lane? I mean, I'm thinking in my mind, some of these kids are so freaking spoiled that maybe everybody pays for their stuff, mom and dad, and maybe mom and dad go get the sponsors. Maybe they don't even know who the sponsors are on their cars, right? I'm like, if you're winning, especially on a big stage, but anywhere, right? My goodness, I don't care. Like, literally walk around the car with the mic and start naming off sponsors, right? You've got to thank your sponsors in victory lane. That's one of the opportunities to give them some exposure. It drives me nuts. I mean, it bothers me when announcers don't say sponsors, right? But it really bothers me when a driver goes to victory lane and they don't say their sponsors. I mean, I get maybe forgetting one or two if you got a bunch of them, that happens, but get the lion's share of them and at least, thank the people that helped get you there, because as a race car driver that was flat broke my whole racing career, I had to get good at thanking my sponsors, because if it weren't for my sponsors, I wasn't going to be racing. And you see people, oh, I can't get any sponsorship dollars. Well, how about you start by thanking the ones you got? Just a thought, right? Just a thought. And if you don't like speaking in front of a mic, get second then. Don't win, right? I don't know what to tell you. Or practice. There's enough stuff online where people can see victory lane interviews. Go on and kind of see how other people do it. And then just do that. It's not that complicated. I just don't understand it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe they need to write down their sponsors on a sheet of paper, put it in their pockets, and then when they're in victory lane, they can just pull out the sheet of paper.
That might be a borderline a bit cocky. Maybe I like it though. I like it. I don't remember who it was, but I remember somebody that carried the hat in the car, because they're like, when I get to victory lane, I want to be able to put a hat on. I'm like, you kind of thinking you're going to win. He goes, well, I didn't come here to lose. It's like, so I guess there is that. That might not be a bad idea.
But no, I mean, I agree with you. Sometimes I got the sense that the announcers doing the victory lane photo or interviews, they'd only ask them a couple questions, and they really didn't ask them, I don't know if I should, insightful questions. So it was always, how do you feel? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And how do you feel about winning at Bristol? Terrible.
Well,
I don't even want to be here.
I kind of got a sense sometimes that some of these pit lane or victory lane interviewers, they were so concerned about asking or getting that last statement from the driver, which they would ask them to say, "It's Bristol, baby." Right. Rather than concentrating on asking good questions, they were more concerned about getting the driver to say, "It's Bristol, baby."
Yeah, there's some truth. That could be very, very valid right there.
But I mean, back to the sponsor thing. Yeah, I once interviewed a driver after he won a special race. I did a video interview with him at his pit stall, and when I asked him if there was anything else he wanted to add, he started listing his sponsors, but he couldn't remember all of them. So he actually did. He went around his entire car, read the sponsors, and I'm following him around with the camera as he's reading off his sponsors off the car. So yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to do that.
Exactly. I've seen that. Now, JC Norgard, he's actually the photographer for the World of Outlaws. He's like, I'd like to see the camera just kind of scan around the car, and kind of give a once around, because that way if the driver forgets one, at least you're kind of getting a visual on TV. So there's multiple ways to do it, but you got to give your sponsors exposure. I mean, come on, dude, And then the last thing I have on, I guess, the bad is people complain all the time about infield tractor tires are terrible. They're like the worst things ever. And all of a sudden, Dirtos come along and they're like, you think tractor tires are bad? Dude, hold my beer, because these things are stupid. I mean, them Dirtles, that's the big. So if you're wondering what the hell's a Dirtle, I didn't know either. They had these, instead of having tractor tires around the inside of the track at Bristol, they poured these little concrete slabs, and they made like miniature jumps coming off these deals, right? And they tore some shit up. Like Tim Vance, that one night in the hot laps, he clipped that deal and he cartwheeled in a hurry, destroyed a race car. Steve Arpin, all of us guys up here know the 00A from, I guess we're going to say he's from Port Francis. He's Canadian. He's a Wissota guy. He clipped that deal, shot at the track, and that thing was shorter on both ends of the race car, right? Now, Arpin, though, not that, and I love Steve to death, but trust me, he didn't seem like he got his hands too dirty, at least in the videos that they showed. They actually loaded up and they headed back over to the shop, and they rebuilt that whole race car so they could get back over there and finish off the program. I think he rounded up. I think he got 10th in the big show there. But them Dirtles, I never even seen them before. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, me neither.
So I don't know where they got that idea, but man, when them cars hit them deals, look out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that was if that's a product of for the NASCAR race, more specifically for the NASCAR races coming up next weekend. But I mean, I believe the NASCAR vehicles are a lot heavier than what these cars that were racing this last weekend. So they may be good for the heavier NASCAR type vehicles, but not necessarily with 2,300 pound late model and some of these other cars.
Can you imagine a World of Outlaw sprint car hitting one of those deals? That's going to be ugly. They might want to get rid of them things before the Outlaws come into town. I can tell you that. Now let's get to the ugly. We did the good. We did the bad.
I have a few bad things.
All right, you got a few bad things. Bert, take it away. What do you got?
First of all, way too much downtime. And maybe we're going to touch on that in the ugly with the number. Why don't we save that for the ugly for?
No, okay. We'll go on that now because it's bad, it's ugly, it's all of the above.
Okay.
I think they just needed more classes.
There's way too much downtime. I mean, I understand the logistics of, that many cars there, getting them into the infield, getting them out of the infield, that all takes time. But it just seemed like there's just a lot of downtime, especially once the super late models got there. Then, because like on Saturday, I watched hot laps. I watched qualifying for the super late models, and then there was nothing for like 2 hours. And I thought they would have had more stuff going on.
That was Saturday? You're talking
Saturday, yeah.
See, what happened on Saturday, Bert, is they literally were waiting for Kyle Busch.
Oh, okay.
So so you're right, because in my mind I'm like, okay, because the late model heats were first, and they're like waiting for Kyle Busch. It's like, well, why didn't they run a couple of LCQs, just change the order up a little bit,
right?
And put them before the heats. That would have made more sense to me because you're right. They sat there that was over an hour. They had a little bit of a break.
Oh,
anyway, but it was over an hour, and they were literally the only thing that was delayed. They were waiting for Kyle Busch.
Because I was watching college basketball now, switching back and forth between the race and college basketball. And every time I went back to the race, there's nothing going on yet. And I was texting you. I said, I've seen more driver profiles than I've seen racing.
Right. Yeah, that's what was going on there. Is it was just hurry up and wait, and it's like they should have just rearranged the schedule there a little bit. I'm not really sure why they didn't. Can you imagine, Bert, because I think they ended up with right around 800 cars, and they had right around 1,500 pre-registered. And it was, I've never ran a show with 800 cars. I have not, right?
Oh, right.
I can't even imagine because that's just mass chaos, right? But can you imagine if all 1,500 would have showed up? That would have been a disaster. I don't even know if they would have gotten. I don't know what they would have done. It was an absolute with the rain and all that stuff. They're very fortunate they didn't have all. They're lucky they didn't have more cars. Is really what they are.
And it seemed like they really didn't have a contingency plan for the rain.
Right.
And that was an issue, and that was one of my disappointments because I felt like the drivers from Northeast Wisconsin who had the best chance of doing really good there were the stock car drivers from our area, and they really got the short end of the stick when with the rain out, because they just basically said you're not going to race your second set of heats and qualifying features. And so just as an example, Luke Lemons, who's from Northeast Wisconsin, he ran a total of 12 laps. He went down there for the whole week, ran a total of 12 laps. In hot laps, he was the 12th quickest. He posted this on Facebook. He was the 12th quickest car of all the stock cars that were there. In Heat 1, he had a bad draw, started 10th, but it's passing points, so, that's all right. He was in 5th place after 2 laps, but then he cut down a front tire, so that was the end of his heat race. And he didn't get a set of second round of heat races, so in the last chance qualifier, he had to start 20th, and they only ran 10 laps for these last chance qualifiers, and he got up to 5th, which is very good, but they only took the top 3. So, to spend all that money to drive down there, spend an entire week down there, and, yes, it's racing, you get flat tires, but, all the other divisions except for the open late models, they all had a second round of qualifying heats to fall back onto. And then Jeremy Hedrick, who's also from our area, he started back in his heat. Then there's things wrong with his car. He didn't do well in his heat. Started 24th in a 10-lap last chance qualifier and got up to 9th in 10 laps. So, I mean, really good getting up there, but that second round of heat races would have really helped those guys.
Exactly. And it's one of those, it's a logistical nightmare with that many classes of cars, that many cars, and obviously, and it is what it is. And I'm not saying late models are better than any of the other classes or whatever, but that was a premier late model event. At the end of the day, it was a 50,000 win late model event. I hate saying that because I used to, man, I remember going to Cedar Lake one night, Bert, and it was super stocks, Minnesota super stocks, and it was World of Outlaw sprint cars. And we were like second outside in the feature, and it was black top to bottom, and I'm like licking my chops. I'm like, my stuff is so good on that type of track, right? Well, the sprint cars went out there and they had rollover after rollover. They had 2 red flags. It was like 2 freaking hours. And they announced, we're canceling the super stock feature and it's going to be next Saturday. Well, this was a Monday show. I ran Hibbing for points on Saturday. So lo and behold, I ended up skipping Hibbing, looked a little sketchy on weather. I went down to Cedar Lake. I won, but then I ended up losing the track championship at Hibbing. And it's like, well, in their mind that this is a World of Outlaw sprint car show. People came to watch the World of Outlaw sprints. It's kind of the same deal, but I can tell you I was bitter. I was pissed. So I can feel where all these other guys, whether it's the Hornet guys, really got the short end of the stick too. You look at all them and they still put all their time and all their effort, and all their money, and they put all their heart and soul into going down to that event. And, they kind of got screwed on that deal too. And, I look at it and it's like, well, why didn't they just, maybe run some of them other classes, run Sunday? They could have ran the premier stuff on Saturday, and they could have worked it out to somehow get that stuff in. And I know they had a hard curfew. I believe it was 1 a.m. That was like a mandatory hard curfew. They could not race past that. But I feel like there was at the end of the week, they could have maybe started earlier. And like you said, they had that 2-hour downtime. How many races could they have got in that 2-hour downtime? So there was things they could have done to make that work, but I guess maybe hopefully they use that as a learning experience. And
exactly. And with me bringing this stuff up, us bringing this stuff up, I mean, it's not it's constructive criticism. I mean, it's the first year for the event. If you do the event again, you learn from this and you make adjustments and make it better. I know leading into the event, some people question, how are you going to get all these races in? And comments I kept hearing from drivers and other people as well. They're able to do it in Boone. Well, in Boone, they race pretty much 24 hours a day if possible, if they have to. But it sounds like that wasn't an option down in Bristol.
No, they had the hard curfew there, and they announced it the one night, and it was like right on the dime. We're done. That's it for the night. But they could have started earlier the next day. I mean, weather was an issue. I mean, but I guess it is what it is. But that was I saw a lot of frustration on Facebook from drivers that were there, going, hey, we came down here. What makes these guys more special than us? Why don't we try to figure something out? So like you said, hopefully they get that better next time. Now, I'm going to be honest. I think probably the ugliest thing I saw all week, right? Did you see that IMCA mod? I keep saying IMCA mod. It was non-sanctioned. It's kind of their rules, right? They called it modifies, but it was the IMCA cars, all right? Well, in the feature, there was like 3 laps to go. There's a yellow. And they come down, they take the green flag, they come around turn number 2, and lo and behold, there's 2 cars hooked together sitting in the middle of the back straightaway. And the first 7, 8 go by them, and everybody else piled into that deal wide open. And there a couple people got sent to the hospital. One guy got a hole, punctured a lung, and broke some ribs. And it's like, I understand, and I don't know this to be 100% fact, but I'm about 99% sure. I heard they fired the flag man right after that, and they said, dude, you're done. You're out. We're going to get somebody else. Because how do you start a race? I mean, it's wide open. You can see forever there. There's two cars sitting in the middle of the back straightaway. They go green. What the hell are they thinking? That guy's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, you would think that there's staff throughout the facility, and they're hooked on radios where they can communicate with each other. I mean, I have a hard time believing that nobody saw that these two cars were just stalled on the backstretch. And even if you do start the race and the cars take the green, I mean, you throw the yellow by the time they get to turn 2, and hopefully they're slowing down. But I mean, the green was out the entire time. I mean, Josh Long, who's from Northeast Wisconsin, he was actually in that race, and he had an in-car camera, and he posted that on Facebook, and he just missed hitting those guys. I mean, all the drivers were on the gas the entire time, and all of a sudden there's two cars in the middle of the racetrack.
Yeah, that's a negligence deal right there. Yeah, that could have been a lot worse. I mean, obviously, you puncture a lung, you break some ribs. That's bad enough, right? But I mean, let's be honest. You start breaking ribs, and you never know where them things are going and what organs are going to take out. So that person could have maybe died in that deal, and that's a pure negligence deal. I mean, if that would have been a lot worse, who's at fault? Is it Bristol Speedway? Is it XR? Is it the flagman himself? I mean, I think at that point in the program, that was fairly early in the week, they were realizing they had so much here, and they were really rushing stuff through. The guy that was speaking into the receiver, I kind of listened to some of that on XR. That guy was an asshole. Like, literally, he's lucky he didn't get beat up. Like, the way that he talked to the drivers, and I get it, you got to be assertive, you have to be, but this guy was a flat-out jackass. I mean, he was just, like, he's lucky somebody doesn't, like, shut him up in a quick, fast, and in a hurry, just the way he's talking to people. And, this is a professional event. I mean, this is supposed to be a big marquee event. You got to learn how to treat people. And there comes a time where drivers, they preach safety. I mean, let's be honest. They disqualify a guy because he didn't have racing gloves on. But the bonehead flagman, right, goes green with cars parked on the racetrack. So now, like I said, from what I understand, that guy was booted out and said, your services are no longer needed in the flag stand, which is good. It should have been. And I'm just glad that I didn't have a flag man like that at my track. I can tell you that. I gave my flag guys got enough grief from me. That guy would have got a lot of grief.
Did the promoters release a statement at all apologizing, and I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen anything, so I don't want to say yes, no, or otherwise. You think they should have did that night, right? My opinion. I get it. They were busy. But,
you would think they. You would think they should have. I mean, this is a journalist to me that's coming out now. I'm wondering, if in fact they did not release a statement, are they not releasing a statement because they're fearful that there could be litigation in the future? So you don't want to admit responsibility if you think there could be litigation.
That's true. That's true. I guess I never thought that's valid. Their attorneys probably said, don't be saying nothing, but hopefully they reached out to the drivers at least. I mean, that was a bad deal. Could have been a lot worse, but it was like one of them eye openers going, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I've been around racing my whole life. I mean, that was crazy. Now,
I have one more thing about that. I don't know because Ricky Thornton Jr. won that race, and they interviewed him in Victory Lane, and they were interviewing him. And then they asked him if there's anything else he wanted to add. And then he started talking about that accident, and they cut him off right there. They would not let him talk about that accident.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if
it's weird to me.
I don't know if it.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it was because the other race was on the track and they wanted to get to that race, but I just thought it was kind of weird that as soon as he mentioned that accident, they cut him off.
What's weird to me is, they were informed, right? The people that had the mics were informed. Anytime there was a bad accident, they'll be talking about it. And you don't see, like, you look at some of the replays, they don't really show that. Like, if you go back to the rebroadcast on XR, they kind of cut a bunch of that stuff out of there. And it's like, I don't really understand why. I know nothing against Barry, but I know that he had a modified series, and it wasn't on him. He was promoting a mod series. But there was a really bad accident up in Brainerd. So I do like the fact that when there's a bad wreck and they're not sure if everybody's okay, keep the camera away from that. We don't need to be, you don't need to be like getting that I guess, that kind of footage until you know everybody's okay. But when I'm up in the announcers booth, something like that happens, I want to at least say, hey, can everybody take a moment to say a quick prayer for the guy, make sure that he's okay, we're kind of keep people updated a little bit. And I feel like they kind of dropped the ball there. Like every time something happened, it just like we'll just move on to the next thing. We ain't even going to talk about that. That was weird to me, I guess. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that. It did seem like when there were accidents, they wouldn't want to talk about anything at all. And me personally, and maybe it's just me, I thought the announcers were trying too hard to be comedians rather than just calling the racing action. I mean, I understand they have a lot of time to fill, like when there's downtime, but I don't know. I just thought they were trying too hard to be comedians.
Yeah, there was a couple of them that were pretty good. I mean, they had such a wide array there. A few of them were pretty good, and a few of them maybe not so much. But yeah, I mean, that's all part of it. That's logistical. Now let's move on. And I already talked about this. By far the weakest field I've ever seen for 50 grand to win in a late model. I mean, it was weak. The Woo guys, you start looking at Brandon Shepard, Ricky Weiss. You start looking at where were these guys? I mean, it's 50 grand to win. I've been a racer for over half my life. And the number one thing we like to do is bitch that we don't get paid enough money. Well, then all of a sudden there's a show that pays big money and the drivers don't show up. I don't get it, right? Where were some of these guys? You start looking at Cade Dillard. You look at Dennis. Was Dennis Herb Jr. there?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think he was there. You start looking at some of these guys, it's like, where are you? Brandon Shepard, he goes over to the 2 Lucas races. Why would he do that? He's going back there later in the month, or I guess in a few weeks here, for less money. Like they're going over there for less money. Was it a 40-lap feature, Bert, for 50 grand to win?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be 60 and they cut it down to 40.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking. When's the last time you saw a 50 grand to win 40-lap AMA? Like never, right? So that was cool. I like that. I'm just baffled. And then so you have a bunch of these guys that don't show up, and then all of a sudden on the flip side of it, you get a guy. I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? Brandon Overton. He's leading the Lucas Oil points, and we're like, why is he here? So. Boy, he's got to be kicking himself, though, because, I mean, his weekend couldn't have gone a whole lot worse. He goes from leading the Lucas Oil points to skipping Lucas Oil, going to Bristol, and he had some issues there. Something happened in the beginning part of that race, and he was just out. So what a waste for him. So now his mind's made up. He's no longer going to be following the Lucas Oil points. He's out of that deal. I'm thinking maybe Big Sexy's not much of a points guy anyway. Maybe he's kind of the guy that likes to chase the money. But were you surprised, A, the fact that the field was so weak, and B, that Overton was at the race? Or what surprised you more between that?
I was surprised the field was weak because, I mean, when I was watching hot laps, it's like I'm watching, or actually I saw a video on Facebook of the late models pulling into the pit area prior to hot laps, and it's like, who are these guys? I wasn't familiar with a lot of them, and yeah, it is surprising that more outlaw drivers didn't show up to race there. I don't know when they made their decision not to go there. I don't know if they watched the first couple of days and saw some of the carnage that was taking place, and I mean, because there was at least 2, if not 3, crate late models that flipped pretty good the first couple of days.
Right.
And I don't know if that made them change their mind on going or not.
Right. It may have. It was interesting to me. And, I'm going to ask you this. If we have to give an award, let's give an award. Let's call it the Bonehead of the Week award at the Bristol Dirt Nationals, okay? And I'm going to break it down into 3 contestants for this award. Number 1, actually, I'm going to break it down to 4. I'll break it down to 4. Number 1 is Hunter Anthony, winner of the Hornet feature that got disqualified for not having gloves on at the end of the race. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, the flagman that about tried to kill the field in the modified race and got fired when he left cars on the racetrack. Number 3, Bobby Pierce's pit guy that decided that you really don't need to tighten lug nuts, and his left front tire fell off on the parade lap. That was in the heat on the first night on that Friday. Or the dude, and this was hilarious, right? There was a guy that evidently he was pushing one of the, I think it was a crate late, but he was pushing it with the four-wheeler, and I don't know, it was like hooked together. That late model pulls out on the racetrack. That ATV is still hooked to the back of it going down the front straightaway. It breaks loose, and that thing had to have rolled 15 times on the front straightaway. Nobody was on it. The guy got off it. I've never seen somebody like have their four-wheeler like hooked to a car and then drive out on the track and seen something topple. So between those 4, Bert, who gets the Bonehead of the Year or of the Week award at the Bristol Dirt Nationals?
I got to give it to the flag man.
Yeah, I didn't even have him on. I added that one in there. I think I got to give it to him too, because that could have been ugly, but I think all 4 of them are quality.
But the Bobby Pierce thing, that was always my biggest, because that was one of my duties on MJ McBride's pit crew, was make sure the lug nuts were tight before each race. So that was always my fear that a tire was going to come off.
You never had one come off though, did you?
No.
All right, well that's good. That's good. So overall, I thought the racing was pretty good. Davenport was impressive. Bloomquist did good. Any show like that, any event like that, you're going to have some craziness. There was a lot of that. There was some good racing. There was some racing that just made you shake your head. But year 1, I don't know if they're going to do this again. I think they probably made a lot of money. But I think it's time to jump off of Bristol, Bert. I mean, we spent a lot of time on Bristol. There was a lot of other races. Let's give them some love. We already talked about the Lucas deal. Saturday, some of the drivers, like I said, they're like, we're going to save our car, go to Brownstown. Right idea. That worked out well. Halfway through the event, they ended up canceling. They got a bunch of rain during the week, so it was rough. I mean, it was rough. And looks like Larry Green, the Squirrel Brian Shirley, and then Jason Fast Eddie, all 3 of them late models, they rolled over. A couple of them rolled over hard. That Fast Eddie got life flighted out of there. Turns out for the most part he was okay. Sounds like he broke his thumb. And that was with 3 laps to go in one of the LCQs. They decided at that point, we're done. We're going to postpone the remainder of the program for, I think it's the beginning of May. I believe it's going to be May 3rd. You can look at the Lucas Oil website to see that. But that was pretty intense. We'll jump down Sunday then, Bert. They went over to.
I do want to add one thing about Brownstown. The track, I did see on Facebook they issued an apology today. They apologized for the track conditions. They said that they added new dirt in the fall, and they did hold some practices this spring and some private practices, and the track held up. But like you said, they got some rain within the last week, and that was the major contributor to the problem.
Yeah, and I think everybody was pretty much on the same page. They were happy that they canceled the remainder of it, because there ain't a track promoter out there that's like, oh man, I want to see everybody tear their shit up. That's going to be awesome. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see people get hurt. So I can tell you right now, that track prep crew and all that, they probably took that to heart, and they made a good decision. A tough one. It's tough to cancel a race partway through the program, but I think they made the right call for that one. And then, like I said, Sunday they head down to Atomic, and actually it's a pretty good race. And if you haven't seen it, jump on to Lucas Oil TV. It's free. And I didn't, for like 60 days until they get their app up and going. All the Lucas stuff is free on Lucas Oil TV so you can just watch it. You don't have to log in or nothing. And Hudson O'Neill, Bert, he was impressive. I mean, he took the lead there and the point lead at the same time. He actually he got out front. He was gone. He looked really good. T-Mac got second. Devin Moran third. JD got fourth. Jimmy Owens, I think something happened in qualifying. He had to start deep, but he went from 25th to 6th in the feature. And I tell you, it was actually a pretty entertaining race. What stuck out to you in that one?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very entertaining race. through the first, I would say 10 to 20 laps. I mean, the top cars were side by side, hustling back and forth, passing each other, slide jobs, I think Strickler had to lead there for a while, or he was in the top three, and then he was running the high side, and he gets they call him the high side tickler. He did a little bit more than tickle the wall, though. He hit it pretty good and busted up his rear tire.
He did.
But yeah, I mean, young guns, Hudson O'Neal, Devin Moran. I was reading on Dirt on Dirt today. Moran's not following Lucas Tour, according to the Dirt on Dirt guys.
Really? He ain't missed anything, has he?
No, I don't think he's missed anything, but they said that he's not following the tour.
Well, we'll see about that, because he's right there in the hunt. He may say that right now, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's a lot of races coming up. We'll see what happens, but so far he's following the tour. We'll see if that changes. Drivers change their mind all the time, so we'll see what happens. Now, as far as picks go, Brownstown, of course, we were all out. But at Atomic, I had Jimmy Owens. No. Bert had T-Mac. Jeff had Moran, who he was the closest. And then Pete had...
No, I was the closest.
Oh, you were. He got second. All right. Fair enough. And Keith had Turbo, and Pete pulled a Ryan Aho, and he picked Bobby Pierce, who was not at that race. So congratulations, Pete. You get the Ryan Aho award for the week. So that was it for the Lucas Oil stuff there, Bert. Another race that I watched, if you have Dirt on Dirt, or if you have Flow Racing, jump on Dirt on Dirt. They're actually following the whole season up at Port Royal. It's a pretty nice facility. They had some good racing. They opened up the series for the United Late Model Southern Series, and not a lot to really report there, but good field of cars. Greg Satterley doubled up on that deal, and he was bolted, just drove away from them both nights. Mason Ziegler was there, and he did really good too. He got like 82nd or something each night. I was very disappointed with him. I'm used to seeing him slicing and dicing and running towards the front, but he was a handful. So I was kind of keeping an eye on Ziggy there. Not good, but Greg Satterley back-to-back wins, so congrats to him. And then we talked a little bit last week about the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series. They opened up last weekend. This weekend, they went down to I-30 Raceway in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I don't know if you remember last week, Bert, Moyer had that altercation and really should have probably won that race, but decided not to. Either A, he didn't look past his air cleaner, or B, he just said, screw it, and I'm going to dump this guy and teach him a lesson. So that was last week. This week, he's leading with like 7 to go, but he was kind of had a weird line. You could tell he was tight through the middle, and I think he blew a right rear tire or something happened, mechanical issues, so that knocked him out of the race. And Logan Martin got his second win of the year. He's leading the points. Great race there, actually. It's pretty entertaining there up at I-30. Kind of a neat little 3/8 mile bull ring, my kind of track. I enjoyed watching that. So if you haven't seen it yet, folks, jump on the Dirt on Dirt, Flow, or either one, and you'll be able to watch that feature from I-30. That Comp Cam series got some pretty good racers in it, Bert. I'm pretty excited to kind of follow that a little bit.
Yeah, I watched the race last week. I didn't get to watch the race this past weekend, but yeah, the racing's been good from what I've seen.
So, Keith, we did not forget about you, buddy. I know we didn't start all with the sprint cars, right? But you can go with we're saving the best for last. And really, in my opinion, the sprint cars put on good shows again. The World of Outlaws, they were damn entertaining. Doubleheader down at the Cotton Bowl Speedway in Texas. Bert, go ahead. I know you watched at least the highlights for those races. What stuck out to you from this week's action for the World of Outlaw sprint cars?
Well, the action was close, fast, and furious. And Reitzel was leading on Friday night, and he was lapping a car and made contact, and the car spun out right in front of him. And Reitzel wasn't involved in it, so he was able to keep a spot and he kept the lead. But Sheldon Hodenshield, went on to win the race on Friday night. But Saturday night,
topside hustling. He was.
Yes.
You give Sheldon Hodenshield a little bit of food, a little bit of a cushion, he's gonna bang it, and make something happen. It's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, he was running, and that's where he was able to make up ground. Was on the, I mean, he was right by the wall. And Saturday night, though, Josh Allen was battling for the lead, took the lead, and then he hit the wall and flipped.
Yeah, I think he was waving his girlfriend or something up in the crowd. You know what stuck out to me on that one, Bert? They interviewed him afterwards, and I'm like, this dude is like high as a kite or something. He's like, yeah, you know, he kind of had that, like, you know, you kind of picture that surfer dude with the flat bill hat. You know, he's kind of, yeah, I kind of messed up and I stepped on it. And, you know, I'm like, I thought he was like half out of his mind. I'm like, either like he got his bell rung or he was flat out high as a kite. And my buddy Kevin, he's a sprint car guy, and I say all the time, all you got to do is hit these dudes in the head with a hammer and say, hit the gas. And that interview right there is like, yep, see, I told you that's exactly what it is. So,
well, people always say you have to have a screw loose to be able to drive a sprint car.
Yeah, you don't need to be technical. You just got to have really big balls and in some cases, very little brains. And who won that one, Bert?
I think your boy won it.
Oh, that's right. I did catch him.
Brad Sweet.
The big Brad cat Sweet got her done. And so Sam Hafertepe Jr., I don't know if you noticed, he skipped the second night. He had I think Grandpa, I think it was, passed away the night before. I think that's what happened. So he left and he skipped that second night because he had some family issues. So thoughts go out to him. But yeah, the big cat won. Brent Marks was kind of there, and Corey Eliason got third. Points action right now, Brad Sweet's winning, but I'm out of the sprint car action. I'm the one who guessed the best because I had no, I guess, expert analysis on that one. So I got that one right with Brad Sweet winning. So that actually, you know, last week's picks, you know, looking at this, you and I both got JD. I got Brad Sweet. Nobody else got anything right. So I got 2, right? And you got 1. And our experts, right? Jeff, Keith, and Pete. Sorry, guys, you got 0. And Jeff's kind of lobbying. He's like, well, I want half a point or something. Well, there is no half a point because he picked Kyle Larson to get second. And he's like, I should get credit for that. Well, there's your shout out. You got credit with a shout out. So the current standings, we're going back to 3 weeks. Jeff actually built us a spreadsheet here to kind of keep track of our picks. The current standings right now, bringing up the tail in 5th is Keith with 0 correct. Jeff, Pete, and Bert have 2, and I am at 3. So we got some picks. We'll talk about them coming up now because we got some upcoming events here this week, Bert, that I'm actually pretty darn excited about. And starting with Thursday night is going to be the first of many. I don't remember how many. Was there 10 races or whatever? The Castrol Flow Racing Night in America. This is Thursday night on Flow Racing, live from the 411 Speedway. 15,000 to win. Sounds like they're really trying to work this deal in to where there's like some other national series in the area, and they're trying not to like be on top of. They're really smart with it because they don't want to be on top of another, like a crown jewel. They're working these races in, so if there's a Lucas in the area, if there's a World of Outlaw in the area, they can run this show, and then they can go race Friday, Saturday with their other stuff. So very well thought out. It's going to be pretty entertaining. And go ahead, Bert. Who's your pick for the 411?
I am going to say this driver rebounds from a less than stellar performance at Bristol, and I'm going to take Brandon Overton.
All right, you took Big Sexy. So Jeff also took Brandon Overton. Pete is going to take Smokey Chris Madden. Keith is taking Turbo Tyler Erb. Now that leaves me, the 411. I'm going to take a guy, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm really good, Bert, at picking people that don't show up. And I don't know if he's going or not, but I just feel like this kid is due to get in victory lane, and he's kind of down in his area. But I'm going to go ahead and take Ricky Weiss to win this one. So I'm trying to maybe give you guys a chance to catch up with me on Thursday. It's either that or I got a lot of confidence. I'd like to take him. Now, World of Outlaw sprint car action. Of course, all World of Outlaw events are on Dirt Vision. So whether it's World of Outlaw Lates, World of Outlaw Sprints, UMP, dirt car stuff, that's all on Dirt Vision. Friday night, they're going to be at the US 36 Raceway. Saturday at the Lake Ozark Speedway, both of those in Missouri. Now, Jeff picked David Gravel to win night 1 and Donnie Schatz to finally get win number 300 on night 2. Pete says Schatz is going to get win number 300 on night 1 and the Big Cat Brad Sweet on night 2. And Keith said, I'm taking Sheldon Hodenschild for both because chances are he'll destroy his stuff at 1 and win the other one. So he's kind of going that route. Bert, who do you have for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars?
I'm going to take Hodenschild in the first one and Brad Sweet in the second one.
All right. And I actually took Brad Sweet in the first one to go back to back. And I'm actually going to take Carson Macedo to win the second one. So we got our picks there for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. Now we got some World of Outlaw late models coming up too. They're going to be down at the Cherokee Speedway. And I'm not sure how Friday works. You say double feature, so I'm guessing that's like a pair of qualifying features to line up for Saturday. We're not going to pick anything for Friday. We're just going to pick for Saturday's $35,000 to win A main. Now keep in mind, no Lucas race this week, right? So with $35,000 to win on the line, I'm guessing not only are you going to get all the World of Outlaw guys, but I have a feeling that several of the Lucas guys will also show up to this race. Who do you have to win in Gaffney, South Carolina?
Well, he's got to win sooner or later, so I'm going to take Brandon Sheppard.
You're taking Bishop. Yeah, you're exactly right. That dude, he's got to figure it out sooner or later here. Now, Jeff took the high side tickler, Kyle Strickler. Pete took the voodoo child, Scott Bloomquist, who actually, Bert, well, he's kind of found a little pep in his step. I feel like he's got, I think he's got some wins coming. I'm pretty excited for him. Keith took Brandon Overton, and I'm going to go ahead and take Chris Smokey Madden to win down at Gaffney. Now, jumping in the Mars Racing Series, this is also on Flow Racing. This is Friday and Saturday. Friday's kind of the same deal. They're doing a double feature deal, so I feel like that's a qualifying type deal. Saturday is $12,000 to win. Now, of course, this is in LaSalle, right up in Illinois. I'm guessing, some of the Illinois guys, Brandon Sheppard, Dennis Erb Jr., they're going to be down running the Woo stuff. But I think this is going to be kind of that same contingent you would see like at the UMP Summer Nationals, the Hell Tour, kind of that same group. Who do you have to win at LaSalle for $12K on Saturday night?
I'm going to go with Bobby Pierce.
You're taking Pierce. You're going to fall right in line with Mr. Jeff. He took Pierce. Pete says Brian Shirley after he destroyed a race car last week. Brian Shirley's tough at home. He is really good. In the state of Illinois, I mean, like even when Brandon Sheppard was there, he gives them fits. He's really tough there. So he's taking him. I'm not sure if he's going to be there or not. I know he can't be at the World of Outlaw stuff, so if he wants to race, you'd think he'd go that way. But Keith has Turbo, Tyler Erb, and man, I'm kind of torn on this one. But I'm really good at picking people that aren't going to be there, and he hasn't raced yet, right? But I'm going to take the Moequa Missile, Shannon Babb. And I feel like he might be making the trip over there, $12K to win early in the year. So we'll see if the Babster can make it over there. Now, finally, Bert, finally, we can get to some modified stuff. Finally. All right. And that's kind of the last big, there's a lot of racing coming up, a lot of local stuff, a lot of stuff on Flow this coming week. But they actually have two specials in one down at Humboldt. It's going to be the King of America, USMTS, and the Battle at the Bull Ring B-Mod special. And they got some preliminary nights, but on Saturday night, the B-Mods are racing for $10,000 to win. And, of course, the USMTS Modifieds, they're racing for $15,000 to win. We're not going to focus on the B-Mods because I just simply don't know who's all going to be there. But who is your pick to bring home some hardware in the USMTS Modifieds?
I'm going to go with Rodney Sanders again.
Bert, you're killing me, Smalls. All right, you're killing me. That's why I picked two. I feel like I should change it, but I'm not going to. So we're going to take the defending USMTS national champ, Rodney Sanders. And Jeff is going to take Tanner Mullins. He's run well. And Pete, he's kind of sticking with his boy, TP, Terry Phillips. And Keith is going with a local boy. And if I had to pick, I'd like to see one of these two wins, either Glenn's or Ebert. But he's taken Dan Ebert, who struggled in heat race action, but he passed a lot of cars in both features down in Texas. So with that said, out of all those races coming up, Bert, what sticks out to you? What are you the most excited about coming up?
Well, I guess I'm curious to see how this flow racing in America on Thursday nights is going to be. So I'm curious to see because that's supposed to have like an in-studio show before the races and everything, if I remember correctly.
I'm with you. I think right now, I'm pretty excited for the modified stuff. Not overly excited for Cherokee. The races I've seen down there don't really wet my whistle too terribly much. The broadcast side of things, I'm more excited about that than anything at 401. I've seen some good racing there, but I'm really curious to see how they put that all together. A very professional group kind of putting that together. So excited for those guys pulling that off. The Mars deal in LaSalle, of course, they didn't race last year, but that's a little bull ring. I like those.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Keith. You're going to love me for this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm the most excited about the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars again.
I'm kind of excited to watch the Mars stuff because, there may be some Southern Wisconsin drivers who decide to go race, maybe a Taylor Scheffler will go race that. Or Mitch McGrath. So add a little bit of local flavor to it. And, those Illinois drivers are really good. Jason Feger and that group. They put on.
Guy. Yeah, he'll be there.
They put on some good races.
Right. That'll be interesting. You're exactly right. Maybe that'll kind of start our power rankings talk a little bit. Get some shows under the belt for those guys. Now, on the last lap, we talked about the Red Cedar Speed. I don't remember if we talked about it or not, or if that happened in between. But did you see what happened with the Red Cedar Speedway?
Yes, they are going to be allowed to race this year. The county board. There must be like 58 members on that. No, I think there's 25, but
a lot.
But all of them except for one voted to allow them to race this year. So that's a good thing.
I'm really excited. They got some big shows coming up. The one I'm most excited about by a long shot is right now it's scheduled to be $15,555 to win. It's a Wissota Structural Buildings Wissota Late Model Challenge Series show, the Dwayne Mader Memorial in August. So they got a lot of exciting stuff happening. Hats off to the crew working hard to get back on track in Menominee, Wisconsin. Another one, I'm going to skip past this one. We're going to come back to this one in a minute. But did you see the news there, Bert? Tanner English got caught with his fingers in the cookie jar a little bit.
Yeah, he had a tire that wasn't up to the standard specs of what the tire should be, or whatever the correct terminology is for that. So
the correct terminology is he softened his tire.
He had to. His team had to pay like around close to $7,000, I believe, and he lost like 210 points, and he dropped to like 24th in the Lucas standings. The interesting thing to me is he was not suspended, though. If this happens in the dirt car, World of Outlaws and dirt car sanctioning, what is it, a 90-day suspension, 60-day suspension, something like that?
I'm not sure how much it is, but yeah, now what's your thoughts on that, right? Because there's two ways of looking at that. Is it better to find somebody and whack them on the points, or is it better to suspend them, right? What's better? I'm torn on that because if I was a track promoter, think about, we'll just use Tyler Erb as an example, right? Let's say there's a World of Outlaw event. There's no Lucas Oil event maybe going on that weekend. I want Tyler Erb at my racetrack. That dude's going to sell tickets. I want him there. So looking at the tire deal, you start suspending people, right? And next thing you know, that person might be a draw. And if they're out for 30, 60, 90 days, who's really getting penalized? Because he can still go race other stuff, right? So he can still race, right? Might not be able to race Lucas if he got suspended, but the track, right? is really the one that's going to lose out on that deal, because that's one less driver that can come. The fans are losing out on seeing that driver. I'm not sold on the suspension deal. I'm not. I'd rather see a fine, take their points away, whatever, do some different things. But that suspension deal, I'm just not a fan of it.
Well, I mean, this actually, did happen closer to home a couple of years ago when Bloomquist got suspended for illegal tire. He couldn't race the USA Nationals because his suspension was, and that's a World of Outlaw event, so he could not race in the USA Nationals. As far as the suspension goes, I mean, I agree with you. Yes, the driver is hurt if he's racing for points, but he can go race anywhere else in the country if he wants to. I mean, the people who are hurt are the promoters of the other tracks with upcoming races. But it's a case of if you're not going to have a heavy penalty, you're not going to deter it from happening. So, I mean, I'm sure the thinking is if you have the suspension, people aren't going to do it. We all know that they still do it. But they won't be as inclined to try to do it because they're scared of getting suspended. But yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. I mean, I brought this up a couple of times on the show already where, I mean, we've discussed the roster of the Lucas series and the roster of the World of Outlaw series. And I've heard from some people that some drivers prefer the race in Lucas because rules aren't enforced as tight and that sort of thing. And this is a perfect example. You dock your tire, okay, we'll slap a fine on you, you lose some points, but you can still race with us. Where if this was the Outlaws, you're suspended.
And here's the deal with it, right? If you think about it, is if you're a big dollar team and you got a ton of backing and you cheat and you just got to pay a $7,500 fine, it ain't a big deal because they got some of these people got all the backing in the world. Now, if you're a medium budget team or a low budget team, right, you take somebody like Brent Larson, who's a kind of a lower budget, right? A $75 fine to him is a big deal, right? A $7,500 fine to Jonathan Davenport, who's got Lance Lander's money behind him, he's like, whatever, here you go. It is what it is. So, yeah, there's part of that. I guess it's not quite the same. I feel like maybe they could do something with provisionals, right? Maybe have a deal where if you're caught cheating, you get your fine, lose points, and maybe take away some provisionals where, let's do something along those lines. But suspending them, I'm not really sure. Maybe a bigger point hit, because to kind of knock them out of contention on the points. But as a promoter, I want to see them people at the racetrack. That's a big deal as far as marketing, trying to get people to the event. It's kind of it's a good discussion because I don't know what's right or what's wrong in that deal. I mean, it's interesting to see how that all transpires. And needless to say, he got caught. And at East Bay, it was flat. The track was hard to get a hold of. So softening a tire down there definitely was an advantage for sure. So he got caught doing it. And last year, Buzzy Adams got a win because one of the modified guys, I don't remember who it was, came from deep and won the feature. He got caught with a soft tire. So East Bay a couple years in a row during speed weeks, catching people with soft tires down there. Pretty interesting. Now, you mentioned, Bert, the USA Nationals, a little bit of event here. Did you see what Merritt Speedway's got going on the weekend of the USA Nationals?
Yeah, I saw somebody posted this on Facebook that they're running a race, 33,000 to win, late model event, and I agree with the posts on Facebook. I just don't understand why tracks do this. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it's not like the USA Nationals, like this is the second year that it's being run or something. I mean, this event is a long-standing event. I mean, why do it?
Yeah, I'm with you totally. I mean, we're seeing more and more of this on local levels, on tracks running against each other. But the USA Nationals is a true crown jewel event, and they're racing. They up the bottom half of the purse. It's 50,000 a win. It's a capacity crowd. It's a great atmosphere for dirt track racing for the late models. And there's enough weeks out there. I don't understand why they're doing this. I mean, I'm afraid, being that it's over there, is it going to keep people away, right? Is it going to keep a Bobby Pierce away? Is it going to keep a Frank Heckenast? Is it going to keep some of them Illinois guys, from coming Wisconsin way versus going over towards Michigan? I really hope not, but I feel like it's gonna. And last year they had a bunch of Lucas guys that didn't come to that either. So I really, they can't afford to lose 5, 6, 7 more named drivers. They can't do it. Pretty soon they're gonna be like, this is getting ridiculous. And it's not the money, right? Because literally 44 drivers raced at Brownstown for $15,000 to win. It was $50,000 to win at Bristol. One of them drivers, Strickler, was at Bristol and left to go race for. I don't get it. I'm totally dumbfounded on that. But I hope it doesn't affect the USA Nationals. I feel like it probably will. Hopefully the weather's bad in Michigan and they rain that deal out and it's not even an issue. That's kind of my hopes. But now moving on, another thing that happened, well, actually another thing coming up, of course, we just got done with the Bristol Dirt Nationals. NASCAR on dirt this weekend, Bert. All 3 classes, and Jeff pointed out, sounds like Mikey Marlar, right, is going to race in the trucks and the cup.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting to see. So there's a few guys that don't normally run, and we didn't really put down anything for picks, but there's a few guys that kind of got their feet wet. It's hard to pick against a guy like Kyle Larson. Are you going to be watching that stuff this weekend at Bristol on dirt?
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch. I mean, normally I usually don't watch the truck or the Xfinity series. But if I'm around on a Sunday afternoon, I'll put the NASCAR race on TV and just kind of have it on in the background. And then when there's like 10 laps to go, then I concentrate on it. But yeah, I mean, I plan on watching probably all 3 of the NASCAR divisions racing at Bristol on the dirt. I'm just curious as to if they're going to make the dirt more like asphalt than dirt, which they did at Eldora all the time.
Yeah, they're going to want to try to keep it dry. I can assure you that. Now, if they'll have luck doing it, I don't know, but they're going to try to keep it pretty hard. And let's end with this. Sammy Swindell, a little bit of drama. They were over at the ASCS Sprint Car Show this weekend. I feel like it was down. Oh, yeah, Devil's Bowl, Mesquite, Texas down there. They had a doubleheader. Heat number 2 on Saturday night. Swindell and Justin Zimmerman got together, and both of them two went for a wild ride, right? And I loved it. The Mike guy got down. He was right out on the track. They're out there, and you could tell that they were kind of wanting to go after it. You could tell there was a lot of hostility, and Sammy Swindell is like, he was not happy. He may have thrown an F-bomb or two, and he says, "Stupid, dumbass kids." I don't think I wrote down exactly what he said, but effing dumbass kids is what he said. Now, this kid he's talking about is 37. So when he said that, I'm like, how old is this kid? Well, Zimmerman is a 2020 ASCS non-wing champ, so not necessarily a kid. He's 37 years old. Swindell, 57 years old. So to him, he's a kid, right? But well, I'll play the little clip of what happened here. You can make the call on kind of who was at fault. It looked like a racing deal to me. Bert, did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. It looked like a racing deal. I did watch the accident several times. I mean, the car on the outside, I think maybe did come down a bit, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't blatant. But yeah, I mean, Sammy was upset. I think he said something, how am I supposed to race against these guys? I'm already down by the tires or something like that. And he was giving his peace of mind, and then he walked away, and then he walked back down by the reporter, and the reporter stuck the mic back in his mouth or in his face, and then was trying to ask him more questions.
Yeah, you could tell he was a little annoyed with that. It was great, and he didn't get the name Slam and Sammy for nothing, right? I mean, he caused his fair share of controversy in all of his years of racing. I mean, obviously, I think he's got 3 World of Outlaw championships. And that was at a time when Steve Kinzer won just about every single one of them. So he's won a lot of races, but you can tell he's just Sammy's Sammy. He's not really the Miss Congeniality. He's not Mr. Personality. He's just a hard-nosed racer. And it was kind of funny because he was not real happy with that one. So Bert, that's a wrap. Anything that you want to close with? We've got a lot of racing coming up. Bristol, of course, was the big event. That was kind of the big storyline for the week. Any closing thoughts going into this week?
I just want to say again, I enjoyed watching Bristol. There is a room for improvement, definitely. But hopefully it's a learning experience and it'll be better in the future if they do this again. And we're only like 3 weeks away from local. While you guys are in the western part of Wisconsin, it's even closer. You're only like a week or so away from racing. I think Shawano Speedway and 141 Speedway in the eastern side of the state of Wisconsin, they open up like the 16th, whatever that Saturday is of April. So
we're getting practice, Bert, at Mississippi Thunder. They practice this week.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Actually, there is one track in eastern Wisconsin that's practicing already. Gravity Park has hosted a few practices already. And I know some of the IMSA modified drivers from eastern Wisconsin, some are heading down to, I think, Beatrice this weekend for some races. So
okay. That was a Baja last week too. Beatrice, Nebraska had some racing. It was rough. It was really rough there.
Well, maybe it's not Beatrice in this weekend. They're going somewhere down south this weekend.
Somewhere anyway. Yeah, I tell you, you're right. We're getting so close right now to our season starting up. I mean, and there is no off season in dirt track racing anymore. There just isn't. But we're now full force into the season. Excited to watch that Thursday night. I'm pretty excited to see that broadcast on Flow Racing. I guess is it the Castrol? Is that what it is? The Castrol Flow Racing Night in America, I believe it's called. So I'm excited for it. I think that's what it's called. I don't have it in front of me. I should know that, but it is what it is. But with that said, that's episode 72 in the books here. I'm Ryan Aho. That is the one and only Bert Lehman. And as Puka always says, hey, go out, be your dream. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for tuning into the One to Go show.